Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to my garage. Today, for this video, I wanted to show you guys some of the customizations that I do to all of my bass boats. I've been running Phoenix for the last 4 or 5 years now, and I actually had a Phoenix way back when, 2014 and that time period. And no matter what bass boat I've had, I've always tinkered with it a little bit to just make it a little bit more comfortable to, you know, my tastes, okay? And some of the things that I think are really important. So I wanted to kind of share some of the mods that I do to my bass boats to make them more efficient and also make sure that my equipment is protected properly, especially in rough water. So let's go ahead and get right to that. But before we do that, just reminder for everybody, if you watch this channel regularly and you enjoy this content, consider hitting that like and subscribe button and also sharing the content too. It's a great way to support the channel. And so thank you in advance for doing that, or at least considering it. But all right, so let's get to it. So the first modification that I do to each of my bass boats has to do with the power poles. Okay, everybody knows about the benefits of power poles. These are the 8-foot blades that I've got on this 921 Elite. Pretty much standard fare for bass boats nowadays. And as far as the switches go, most people are going to put a switch at the console. So when you're up shallow, parking on the shoreline, parking at the ramp, you've got a switch right there. That's pretty standard across the board. Most anglers will put one there. I've got one right there. Okay. Another place that is absolutely standard and necessary is at the bow here. Okay, so those stomp switches are really key. I like to put one on either side, and I always put the down on my right side. That's my dominant side. So just so I can add it, you know, quick thought, hit that button, and I know exactly where it's at. I don't even have to look down. And I also switch it, I program them to the one touch. So like I just have to stomp on it once. I don't have to like try to tap on it twice, which I always seem to mess up. So I hit the button once and they go down. Over the years, and for years, I just had the two switch placement. I had one at the console and one at the bow, but I started to realize that I spent a lot of time when I caught a fish or was rigging and I needed to put the power poles down. I would have to go to either the front or the console to do that, okay? So when I'm in the middle of the boat, I figured I needed a switch. So what I started to do is I started to install a switch right here in the middle of the boat. And that way, when I catch a fish and then instantly go to the center of the boat to, you know, unhook it or I'm re-rigging or something like that, I have a switch right there. I cannot tell you how critical that and helpful that switch has been right there at the middle of the boat, okay? So that is like a huge one for me. Every single boat that I get nowadays, I put a power pole switch right here. Helps me be more efficient, and it keeps me from having to like reach around the console to hit that button. So the only time I hit that button next to the console is when I'm sitting down and it's easy to access. I don't have to contort. You know, I'm getting old. I don't need to be contorting myself to get around a console to hit the button. And I definitely don't need to go back on the bow when I'm trying to re-rig something and maybe drifting into a good stretch or something like that. So that is the first customization. Super, you know, simple thing to do, and also inexpensive. But it's been super helpful. I've actually seen other anglers put like a stomp switch like on the bow there, right here. And that, of course, works too. But to me, I think that it allows you to, you know, it kind of poses the opportunity for hitting it on accident or sitting on it or your dog stepping on it. There's a lot of things that can happen when it's right there. So this is kind of out of the way, but it's in the perfect spot where I can just tap it real quick. And again, I program that that remote for the one touch. Okay. All right, so the very next customization or modification I do to all my bass boats, super important, okay? And this is one that I've never seen anybody else do. I'm sure somebody does it. And there's some products on the market that kind of solve this problem, but I feel like this is a better option and way cheaper, okay? And the problem, I'll talk about the problem first. The problem is when you're fishing big water, one of the pieces of equipment that is the most susceptible to damage or just coming clean off of the boat is your trolling motor. And this thing, you lose this trolling motor, you're pretty much done fishing for the day. Okay, and I've been on some big water tournaments. You know, I think it was 2020. We were fishing out of Sandusky Bay, Ohio, on Erie, and I couldn't catch a fish in Erie. I could catch drum like crazy, but I had to make the 90+ mile run from Sandusky Bay on Erie all the way onto Sinclair and Anchor Bay. And that first day was like 4 to 6 footers. A lot of guys came back to the ramp with a, with their trolling motor bounce busters. These things right here, punching a hole through the deck. Yeah, and that's why I put this disc here. Or the trolling motor just clean came off because they don't have it strapped down properly. Yes, manufacturers like Lowrance, they provide this Velcro strap. Okay, that does help. Okay, this is nothing against this. It does help, but in big water on long runs, that's definitely not enough, okay? You need something that is going to allow you to get all of the slack, all the movement out of your trolling motor, no matter what brand you're using. And that's why I add this puppy right here on all my boats. I add a separate cleat right below the trolling motor so I can put a cam strap onto this, wrap it around, tighten it down, and this is not going anywhere. There's no movement at all, which is exactly what you want. And the reason why I say a cam strap, and cam straps are the ones with the little, the teeth, the little tab that you press to loosen it up, and you hand tighten it, okay, as opposed to ratchet straps. Ratchet straps are great, but they pose the risk of over tightening. Okay, and you don't want to do that with your trolling motor either. So highly suggest using cam straps, and I always have a couple cam straps with me. I think I got it in the boat. I say always. Let's see, should have one back here. It's been a long year of not really fishing all that much. Yeah, I've got one back here. So I cut it down to size, just cut it down just so it fits that trolling motor right there. And I put that through the middle of the cleat, the middle of the base of the cleat here, and then wrap it around the trolling motor, tighten it up, and you're good to go. So that is like a super inexpensive, simple thing that I do with all of my trolling motors. And I also, again, put this little plate. There's a couple companies out there that make these little, bounce buster, base plates. Those are really important too, because the bounce busters will, in rough water, if you have slack in them, bust a hole through your deck. I've seen it time and time again on these, Great Lake tournaments, even Champlain, I've seen it. So get the slack out of your trolling motor, put a little cleat there. It's super easy. I really do prefer, if you have access to it underneath, to use bolts and big washers instead of just screws. Okay, that's another big thing. But putting a cleat there is really going to enable you to fish just about anywhere, travel anywhere in really rough water, and still have a trolling motor when you get there. Okay, again, use your Velcro straps, but don't rely on them completely. Okay, all right. The next modification that I do to all my boats, again, has to do with, reliability and backup plans and things like that. And that is to always have a plug on the outside that you plug your trolling motor into. And the reason I mention this, there's a lot of brands that do this already, where the plug is external. Now, there's a lot of problems that come with external plugs too. They're more susceptible to water intrusion, to corrosion and things like that. That's why Phoenix traditionally will actually hardwire their trolling motor harness inside the bow of the boat. So you take the plate off and it's in there, and they seal it like, I mean, they really do a number on it, and it's very reliable. But if you do have to swap out your trolling motor, it takes forever to take this plate off. And then of course you got to put it back on. So it's like 40 minutes of just taking it off and then putting it back on to get to your wiring. So I always just go ahead and, install that plug right there that allows me to go ahead and remove my trolling motor if I have to go to the service yard or something like that and swap it real quick. So for tournament fishing, it's all about, like, if something goes wrong, being able to fix it fast. And so I always have that plug there. I think that that's really important. I've had that, on my Phoenixes for all the Phoenixes that I've had. Okay, so just having something that you can access really quick to get your trolling motor off is a big deal. And sometimes I even will, when I was running like Humminbird 360, I would make sure that all of the connections were outside of the shroud here, or outside of the bow, okay? So I could actually, take everything off from the outside instead of having to access here. So that's always a big deal for me. The final modification that I do is actually to actually remove something that comes from the factory, that I order from the factory. And that is to remove the rod organizer. We got a ton of rods. We use a ton of rods. We're using about 35 different rod and reel combos at pretty much any one time. And the rod organizers, which you can see my rod organizer that was installed by the factory, really just kind of gets in the way of that. If you're just using, 8 or 9 different rods in your rod locker, the organizer is awesome. But most pros, they definitely tend to carry a lot more equipment. And I know that that's my case. And so I just take out that rod organizer altogether, and then whoever buys the boat, when I'm done with it, I reinstall the organizer. So anyways, guys, those are some major modifications that I do to my bass boats every single year that I think is a really, really big deal. It's just the little details that really help you out in certain situations. So yeah, let me know what your modifications are that you do to your bass boat every single time you get a new one that helps you be more efficient and comfortable out on the water. I want to know. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. I'm going to see you out on the water. Make sure you trust the process.